Sure, it's driveinfilmfestival.com.
Let me just say, first let me ask this question. Where are
Sure.
the next festivals going to be taking place? Do you have anything set up?
Well, every year it's a bit of a, question mark because it's all about which drive-ins are finally going to cave in and let us come and not be nervous about, I'm not sure exactly what they're nervous about, but a lot of these drive-in owners are extremely independent, family-run businesses for, 50-plus years, and anything new is daunting. But because of the change with the digital projection, we've had a lot more, and of course the internet, because we've been, doing this for 7 years, and in the very beginning, it was all mailings from my side and trying to figure out, the correct actual mailing addresses. Some of them were post boxes that didn't have, mailing addresses, contacting, business councils, trying to find out who I can talk to. So over time, it's been a lot easier to at least reach out to the owners of the drive-ins. What's amazing about them is they're usually, wonderful families or groups, of folks who have a real passion for it. The tricky part, too, is that tend to be a little bit more rural, tend to be a little suspicious of a group, not-for-profit, saying, we want to come help you and bring films your way and put together an event. So every year we have the stalwarts who are huge fans and supporters of ours, which is the Del C Drive-In. There's also the Capri Drive-In in Michigan, who are really big fans. There was a drive-in in Delaware that were really big fans of ours, but it sadly closed. And we kind of always have those that we go to. We go to the Del C every year because it's also close enough that we can drive and take a large group and do kind of a big event there. But we also try every season, or usually every other season, depending on our budget, which all comes from submissions and fundraising. We try to travel and get the word out in other regions, not just the Northeast region. So 2 years ago, we went to Kansas. I went to an amazing drive-in there, the Canopolis Drive-In. This year we have chatted with tons of different drive-ins over the last, basically since the last season. And now it comes to the point where people are very interested, and then you start talking about, specifics. And then sometimes it gets a little nervous for them. So we'll see who we can afford to go to. I would love to try this year to at least get to a few. There's a new drive-in in LA called the Paramount Drive-In that just opened last week. We have a few new drive-ins this year. Another new drive-in is just north of New York City. I'm forgetting the name of the town, but it's actually connected to a restaurant, a Brothers restaurant, which is a small chain in north of here. And they kind of have a small little drive-in beside, and, I'm hoping that we can, talk to them and help them out. So would love to get to some of the new drive-ins to also kind of bring up that idea that these are still really thriving, great experiences that everyone should do and see how great it is. They're still opening, even though so many close every year. They're still opening. They're still, it's always such a good feeling. So we'll see. At the moment, it's early for us in the season. The summer is such a huge boom for the drive-ins, especially the ones that only are open during the season, that we have learned the hard way that we tend to screen Labor Day weekend or somewhere after as the big budget movies kind of die down. We can come in with our programming and kind of boost a little bit of the press, a little bit of the local area, get interest, because it isn't July 4th and it isn't, huge movies. There aren't those movies coming out at that point, so we can kind of help the drive-ins and also, secure ourselves some crowd, not trying to compete with everything big. So we tend to use the summer as a time where we prep, go to the drive-ins, say hello. They really prefer you to be in person whenever you're doing anything. That makes it hard, but that's what they prefer when you're kind of putting everything together for them. We also do digital drive-in, or like we call it digital selects, every year. And this year, ours is actually coming up next weekend, where we screen a few of the digital films here in the city and give them a New York screening, and also kind of a welcome to summer. Let's talk about the drive-ins. Let's tell all the city folks where they can go and how to get there and who to support. And so we'll be doing that in a few weeks' time, May 11th, at a venue here in the city. So we kind of start our prep now, and we'll find out soon. A long story answer to your question. Find out soon when we're going to screen. We'll definitely screen in Delcy and New Jersey, but I would love to add at least 2 more, and potentially one of the other new drive-ins that I was telling you about.
I actually have somebody in New Jersey that might be able to come to one of your screenings.
Oh, that's fabulous!
Would be great. So let us know. We'll get somebody to come over and cover it, perhaps.
Would love that. And I know that one of the big things that I don't know if it's any interest to you guys, but might be, there was a big announcement on Tuesday, I guess that was yesterday, that Jimmy Buffett is streaming a live concert of his at 70 drive-ins around the country on, I think, some date in June. And it's the first time that's happened in the drive-in culture, where they've done kind of a mass digital screening. I think because of projectors, they can do that a lot easier now, and it's not a very tough thing. So it looks like there'll be, I don't know if Delcy's going to do it, but it might be worthwhile, depending on where you guys are, if you wanted to cover the kind of new idea for events that are also happening for the drive-ins. It's in Texas, where he'll be doing the actual concert, and then it'll be streamed at the Coyote Drive-In in Texas, and then it'll be streamed at 70 other drive-ins. They're not giving that list out until Friday of the 70 drive-ins they'll be at. Some of the drive-ins have already been blasting it on Facebook that they'll be participating.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I have a few. Not sure if the Delcy will be participating. I don't think so. The owner, John DeLeonardis, is a close friend now, and I don't think that he was interested ultimately. I also just wanted to mention that we just got contacted by a photographer who's working on a book. She's taking a road trip in July all across the country and photographing abandoned drive-ins and current drive-ins. And she's a Portland, Oregon-based photographer who has just done a big Kickstarter campaign and, got funded to do this book. And, she'll be doing that project this summer as well. People can find us and chat with us, and we do get to hear a little bit more about the more recent news that's happening in the kind of drive-in world.
How did you get involved with this?
Well, I'm a filmmaker, and I was going to getting my MFA at Columbia here in New York, and my short films specifically, were being screened at all kinds of festivals, all over the world, actually, in Canada as well, and in France, and all over the States. And I was going to all these festivals and really enjoying them, and really loving the camaraderie, the ability to see your film with different crowds, just the whole feeling of it. And I was driving back from Montreal, actually, where we were playing at a festival, and it occurred to me, I was with my producer in the car, that there were no drive-in film festivals. There weren't any film festivals even at that time. I know a few now, like Austin, for example, will screen a few things at drive-ins that are close by. Mm-hmm. But how at that point in time I realized also that I hadn't been to the drive-in in years, and we were kind of lamenting that where I grew up outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. There had been, about 9 drive-ins local to me growing up, in the 70s and early 80s. And by the time I had graduated high school, there were 2 that were close enough that you would drive in an evening, at least for us. And then by the time, I was out of college, there was only 1, and it's the one still standing today in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, called Haar's Drive-In. Haar's, Haar''S Drive-In in Dillsburg.
Okay.
And Vicki Hardy is the owner of Haar's, and it's a great old school, very, still very much in the 50s drive-in. But and my producer was lamenting the same thing. She grew up in Manhattan Beach in California, and was saying that there were times that they would go, like every weekend. She felt like, to the drive-ins, kind of a little bit outside of the city. They had lived in Pasadena at some point growing up, and there was some different places she would go, and we were just reminiscing about it all. And I got back, and we were having a meeting about the film, and we kind of started thinking about it together, and I thought, well, maybe I should do something. This is before it was so easy to make a domain name and do all that kind of stuff. And I said, well, how much is it going to cost, and what do you think it would be? And, I was still working on my thesis film and, hadn't graduated yet. But I just started getting really excited about the idea. And then we found a few drive-ins within 2 or 3 hours distance from the city and got really excited and started to go chat with people. And I started going, when I would go home to Harrisburg, I started going to everywhere I could, chatting with people. And I thought, wow, this is such a great experience that hasn't been really utilized, and we don't talk about it much anymore, especially this is like 9 years ago, when the internet still wasn't as vibrant. It didn't have, it wasn't, Facebook wasn't what it was, just nothing was as communicative yet, in my opinion. None of the drive-ins had emails even at that point. A few had websites, but they didn't have a way to contact them. So, long story short, I thought, well, I make independent films and work with a community of independent filmmakers, and so excited about all the films that were being made, especially late 90s, early 2000s, and I thought this would be such a great match to bring new audiences to a drive-in, especially the younger crowd, teens, college kids, out to the drive-ins, get some new audiences, remind people that it's there, bring some fresh movies to these kind of more rural areas that don't really have, some of them, repertory cinemas or art house cinemas, or, now we do have Netflix and we have all these great streaming abilities and Redbox, but it's still not the same as seeing something, on a big screen. So I got really excited about it, and it just kind of bloomed really quickly. The hardest part was, finding the drive-in owners and chatting with them. And in the way, though, the hardest part was also the most fun, because I got to go to, dozens of drive-ins, that first few years. And, it was great. I feel like now, this many years later, I don't get to go near as many drive-ins. I get to call and email about the drive-ins. But I certainly feel like the big burden then was they did not have any way to play anything digital. And because there was digital projection at that point was so basic, they could not play on such large screens. You did not have a projector that could work for them at that time. So you couldn't play a lot of films or content that didn't have a print.
Right.
So it really then narrowed us down, and it was a huge challenge finding films that could screen at the drive-ins with a print that were still interesting and exciting enough to bring new people out. That, also sometimes we always wanted to find one that was family friendly, so that we could start with that one, on screens, and then move into more darker territory, because you want the kids to be able to, parents to come and kids to, we want it to be inclusive. So it became a real, interesting algorithm for us to figure out, what we could screen and how. And we had a few, super, super successful summers and events figuring out the best way to make it work for the drive-ins. And then I kept working on off-season, talking to PR people, working, with different friends and colleagues, figuring out the best way as a not-for-profit that I can help the drive-ins. And really, it's really just bringing audience, because, they make most of their money with the concession stand. And so if I can bring audiences there and even get them down the line, I would love to have like a carnival, an actual daytime carnival on the drive-in. If some of the drive-ins can't do it, but some of them can because they have more land. But have something like that that's free with your ticket for the film, and you come early, park early, there all day, eat, have fun, and then movies start, and really try and get more and more and more income and excitement, and more press for the drive-in specifically. But like anything, every year we grow, and every year we, have more what comes in for us in terms of, sponsorships and fundraising and submissions, that I feel like, we're getting close to building up that. We make our own kind of carnival atmosphere and have everything is free for, free games for the kids, free prizes, that kind of thing. And we really make it lots of raffles, lots of ways for everyone to win and have a good time and get them excited about it and talking to us about the drive-ins. And, it's great. We get so many great memories from folks, when we're at these events. And I feel like almost, someone should be there recording it all the time because some of these stories are just, amazing. And it's something you can't beat, the nostalgia of the drive-in, and what that has been for people over, these 50, 60 years. So, we're also hoping to link ourselves to potentially one of the bigger music festivals or bigger film festivals as well, and kind of, bring an event to a drive-in nearby, and, kind of just host, now that we have all these great connections to drive-ins, and help, everybody out. Been chatting with friends, different places, colleagues that are connected, just so we can bring more attention. Ultimately, that's the goal. I mean, it's great to showcase films, and I love to watch films constantly. It's never, ever, it's always a joy for me. But I feel like there's still ways to go. Honda did a great thing last year with helping all these drive-ins get digital projection, but there's still so many folks out there and families who are running these drive-ins who are just, I'm sure you've read about it and you see it, right, so struggling. So still have work to do to get the word out, and
Well, thank you for all the effort that you've made so far. I think that it's people are really appreciating it as well. So, and you got our attention.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and thank you for looking into everything and getting it out there as well. It's exciting because I feel like whenever there is any kind of press for the drive-ins, even if it is, yours is a bit more thought out and thorough, but even if it's a little thing, a blurb that's like, drive-ins are great, it's only helpful. It can only help